Shen Yue left without warning, and what happened next had fans watching every move, every message, every silence. And if you think this is just another simple travel story, then stay with this until the very end, because what unfolds will make you question everything you thought you knew about distance, connection, and what it really means to miss someone. It began on a quiet morning that did not seem important at first. There were no loud announcements, no dramatic exits, just a simple update that Shen Yue had traveled abroad for a new filming project. At first, fans reacted the usual way: excitement, curiosity, anticipation for what she was about to create. But underneath that excitement, something else started to grow, something subtle but powerful. Because almost at the same time, something unexpected came from Dylan Wang. It was not a long message. It was not a detailed explanation. It was just a feeling, expressed in a way that felt raw and real. He said he missed her. Not casually, not in a passing way, but in a way that felt heavy, like the kind of words that come from a place that cannot be hidden anymore. And just like that, everything changed. Fans who had been focused on her journey suddenly turned their attention to him. The contrast was impossible to ignore. On one side, a rising star stepping into a new chapter in a foreign place. On the other, someone left behind, dealing with a silence that suddenly felt louder than anything else. As days passed, glimpses of Shen Yue abroad began to surface. The location looked completely different from anything fans had seen her in before. The streets were unfamiliar, the environment raw and unfiltered, the kind of place that tells stories without saying a word. She was seen preparing for scenes, walking through crowded areas, adjusting to a pace that felt intense and unpredictable. There was a strength in the way she carried herself. Focused, determined, present. But even in those moments, fans could not ignore something else: the absence. Back home, Dylan Wang seemed different. His updates became less frequent, but when he did appear, there was a shift in his energy. It was subtle, but noticeable. A pause before speaking. A glance that lingered just a second longer than usual. A tone that felt quieter. People began to connect the dots. Was this just coincidence? Or was there something deeper unfolding beneath the surface? Then came a moment that no one expected. During a late-night appearance, when everything seemed routine, he was asked a simple question about how things had been lately. For a brief second, he hesitated. Not long enough for most people to notice, but enough for those who were paying attention. And then he said it again. He missed her. This time, it was not just a statement. It was a feeling that filled the space around him. There was no attempt to hide it, no effort to soften it. It was real. That moment spread quickly. Fans began sharing it, replaying it, analyzing every detail. The way he said it, the way his expression changed, the way the room felt different after those words left his mouth. Meanwhile, Shen Yue continued her work abroad, fully immersed in her role. Behind the scenes, whispers began to circulate that the project was more demanding than expected. Long hours, intense scenes, emotional depth that required everything from her. And yet, even in that demanding environment, there were moments where she seemed distant. Not distracted, but thoughtful. As if part of her was somewhere else. Fans noticed. They began to wonder. Was she aware of what he had said? Did she feel the same way? Or was this something only he was experiencing? Then, one evening, something small happened, but it changed everything. She posted a simple update. No long caption. No detailed explanation. Just a quiet moment captured in a frame. But what caught everyone's attention was not the image itself. It was the feeling behind it. There was a softness, a stillness, a kind of silence that felt intentional. And in that silence, fans felt something shift. It was not confirmation. It was not denial. It was something in between. Back home, Dylan Wang saw it. Whether he responded publicly or not did not matter, because the connection was already being felt. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between them became more than just physical. It became a story. A story of two people moving through different worlds while still being connected in a way that could not be easily explained. And then came the moment that brought everything together. During the final days of her shoot, something changed. The atmosphere shifted. the intensity of the work began to ease, and with that came a sense of reflection. Looking back on everything that had happened, every challenge, every moment, every feeling. And somewhere in that reflection, there was clarity. When she finally prepared to return, fans could feel it. The anticipation, the curiosity, the unspoken question that had been building all this time. What would happen when they were in the same place again? Would things go back to normal? Or had something changed permanently? The day she arrived back felt different from the start. There was an energy in the air, a quiet expectation that something meaningful was about to happen. And when their paths finally crossed again, it was not dramatic. It was simple. But sometimes, simple moments carry the most weight. There was no need for big words. No need for explanations. Just a presence. A look. A feeling that said everything without saying anything at all. And in that moment, everything made sense. The distance. The silence. The words that had been spoken, and the ones that had not. It was never about being apart. It was about what remained even when they were. And as the story settled, as the noise faded, as people began to move on to the next headline, one thing stayed behind. A feeling. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful connections are the ones that do not need to be defined. So now, as you think about everything that has happened, ask yourself this. Was it just distance? Or was it something more? And if you felt even a part of what this story carried, then you already know the answer. Shen Yue and Dylan Wang had no idea that what started as a quiet moment of distance would turn into something this emotional, and if you thought the story ended with a simple confession of missing someone, then what happened next will change the way you see everything, because this is where the truth slowly begins to reveal itself. The days after that emotional moment did not calm anything down. In fact, they made everything more intense. Fans were no longer just reacting, they were searching. Searching through past interviews, old clips, behind-the-scenes moments, trying to understand if this connection had always been there, hidden in plain sight. Meanwhile, Dylan Wang seemed to withdraw slightly from the spotlight. Not completely, but enough for people to notice. His presence felt quieter, more reserved, like someone who was thinking deeply about something that could not be easily explained. Every appearance carried a different energy now, one that felt heavier, more personal. Then came a moment that shifted everything again. During a casual live session, when everything seemed normal, someone asked him directly about Shen Yue and her time abroad. For a brief second, he paused. That pause was enough. It was the kind of pause that says more than words ever could. And then he spoke. He said that sometimes distance makes you realize what truly matters. That was all. But it was enough to send waves across the entire fandom again. Because this was no longer just about missing someone. This was about realization. About understanding something deeper that only becomes clear when it is not right in front of you anymore. At the same time, Shen Yue was nearing the end of her filming abroad. The project had taken a lot from her, physically and emotionally. Long days, unfamiliar surroundings, intense scenes that required everything she had. But somewhere in between all of that, there were quiet moments where she seemed reflective. Those close to the set noticed it. They said she would sometimes pause between scenes, not distracted, but thoughtful. Like someone processing something important. Like someone who had something on their mind that went beyond the script. And then came the moment that no one saw coming. On one of the final days of filming, a short behind-the-scenes clip surfaced. It was simple, almost too simple to stand out at first. But what caught everyone's attention was what she said in that moment. When asked how she felt about going back home, Shen Yue smiled softly and said that sometimes you do not realize how much you miss a place or a person until you are far away from it. That single sentence connected everything. Fans did not need confirmation anymore. They felt it. Back home, Dylan Wang saw the clip. Whether he reacted publicly or not did not matter because something had already shifted. The distance that once felt heavy now felt like it was leading somewhere. And then, finally, the day came. Her return. The airport was not just another arrival point this time. It felt like the ending of a long chapter. Fans were watching closely, waiting for any sign, any moment that would give them clarity. When Shen Yue stepped out, there was a calmness in her presence. Not exhaustion, not relief, but something deeper. Something settled. Hours later, in a setting that felt almost ordinary, their paths crossed again. No cameras capturing every second. No dramatic announcement. Just two people, standing in the same space after weeks of distance. For a moment, nothing happened. And then everything did. There was a look, brief but meaningful. The kind of look that carries everything that words cannot express. No need for explanations. No need for questions. Just understanding. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. But it was real. And in that quiet moment, all the speculation, all the theories, all the emotions came together into something simple. They had missed each other. Not as a performance, not as a statement for the public, but as something genuine. The story did not end with a grand confession or a public declaration. It ended with something more powerful. Clarity. Because sometimes, what matters most does not need to be announced to the world. Sometimes it is enough to feel it, to know it, to experience it without needing validation. And as time moved forward, the intensity of the moment slowly faded into memory, but the feeling remained. A reminder that distance can reveal truths that closeness sometimes hides. A reminder that some connections do not break under pressure, they become stronger. And most importantly, a reminder that not every story needs a perfect ending to be meaningful. Because this was never just about where Shen Yue went or what Dylan Wang said. It was about what they both felt. So now, as you look back on everything that happened, ask yourself this. Was it just distance that made them feel this way? Or was it something that had always been there, waiting for the right moment to be understood? And maybe, just maybe, that is where the real story truly ends.